somebody like you again, who can love me as much as you did.
This is J-Jax, and today I want to talk about how I made my new song, Left on Earth. So this song is a song where I remember my late uncle. He was the husband of my aunt on my mother's side, and he raised me when I was a little boy, and he had Alzheimer's around the time when I entered high school, and he passed away in 2022. So I wrote that song around that time when he passed away, but it took me a very long time to complete the song, to perfect it and arrange it, and I finally released it in 2025, December 7th, which is the exact date when he passed away. So let's check out the session. The song is composed of mainly 5 parts. First would be the special effects. Second, 3 bass elements. Third, a lot of instruments. And then fourth, drums. And then lastly, we got the vocal sections. Let's start with the introduction. The most important part of the introduction would be the synth layers. And here we need to start with the chords. So the first chord progression is C, G, and D minor. The chord progressions actually change. It's C, G, D minor, G, but this is the only time when this chord progression will come about. And then we have synths that are layered. So lead synths. Second layer. Third layer. So I think these were all Arturia presets. I think the preset's name was Sleepless, and then we got a Juno with Sausage Fattener. I think I used that for most of the synths here, and some reverb, and then we got a brass synth that covers the low end of that synth lead. And then we have a bass guitar that just follows the chord progression. And then a riser. Now, for the introduction, because I thought it first sounded a bit bland and I wanted a bit of dramatic opening, I automated the master bus. So we start with a low pass filter and it continues to open up until the middle of the intro. So with this on, it would sound like this. Moving on to verse 1. Here, we have a shift of the chord progressions. So the chord progressions now become C, G, F, G, I think. And the synth is very, very simple. It's a pad layered, which originally sounds like this. But I put a sidechain filter on it for some movement. So as I said, I wrote this song a very long time ago, about 3 years ago, and I couldn't get the song to be in its fullest form because of the percussion. I didn't want the percussion to be too boring, almost as if it's a funeral song, but I didn't want it to be too exaggerated to the point where it's like an EDM song or like a really strong hip-hop track. So originally the demo sounds like this.
Would it be the same in a few weeks? But it's not the pain keeping me from sleeping.
Very boring. And I thought the song deserves more justice by having a much rhythmic percussion element, even though it's not super energetic. At least it's not like a funeral song, which is totally against the purpose of the lyrics and also what I intended the song to be. So if we see the percussion, it's sort of a drum and bass rhythm, actually. And then we got some rides.
Every night and every day I doubt if you could hear my prayers now.
So yeah, that's the drum rhythm. Let's check out the vocals. So my vocal chain is always pretty similar. I recorded with the Peluso 2247LE into my Neve. And we have a limiter that's there for catching peaks. We have a de-esser. I have an EQ just to clean up some resonance. I have an LA2A to level and compress the vocals. I have another de-esser, Pultex for shaping, a decapitator for saturation, a neutron EQ. I don't know why I pulled this up, but I just wanted to pull it up for when I was mixing this for additional shaping. Spectre just to saturate and excite the high end, Soothe for additional resonance catching, and another L2 just for final leveling, actually no gain reduction. And for reverb, I got a lot of reverbs actually for this vocal. I have a slap delay. I think I also have a Pop Hall. It's a Valhalla preset. And then I have a Sunset Chamber from Seventh Heaven. Two types of delays, 1/4 and 1/8. And I also added a doubler because I didn't want to add a lot of background vocals for this track, but I did want at least the vocals to be a bit wider. And then we got background vocals, which is, I don't think it's a lot. I recorded background vocals for this song with a different microphone, TLM 102 into the Neve. I just bought it because it's really small and I could place it anywhere I want and I could just sit while recording. That actually helped my workflow a lot. Harmonies and low harmonies. So that's it for verse 1. For the first bridge, we suddenly shift the energy. It becomes more balladic, and the chords change every 2 bars. It's F, G, and A minor 7th. And on that, I recorded acoustic guitars. I'm not really a good guitar player, so I just punched in everything I can. Slight arpeggio. And then a strum. And we bring back the synth melody in the intro with a piano. On top of that, I thought something was a bit missing in terms of texture. So what I did was I added an ambience, which is barely audible, but I think it brings that slight melancholiness into the song. So it's just a cymatic sample. It sounds like that in the context of the instruments, and then just the percussion. The vocals in the first bridge is actually not recorded with my current chain because it's a vocal that I recorded, I think, around the time when I started making the song. So that would be about 2.5 years ago. So it's the same microphone, but it was a different preamp, the Vintech 1073. And therefore, I needed to slightly change the settings of my vocal chain.
Will I ever meet somebody like you again? Who can love me as much as you did? Without you I feel I'm the only one that's left on earth, and it's now time for last goodbyes.
Now let's look at the hook. The hook chord progressions is pretty much the same as the bridge. I think it's an A minor instead of an A minor 7th, but the rhythm completely changes. It's a lot faster and there's more energy. And we bring back all of the elements that we had in the introduction and also the first verse. So we can see that the pads are there, but I add a respace, and the synths and then drums. It's an accumulation of what the song has brought so far. Now we move on to the second verse. Now, this is where it gets really different in terms of arrangement. So we got the same pad and the same chord progressions, but in the second verse, I wanted to kind of bring back my own element, which would be hip hop and rap. So I made the drums into a relatively slow, rhythmic trap beat. And then we got 808s. Now, the second bridge, in terms of feel and also emotion, is similar to the first bridge because we have the same chord progressions, but the arrangement is very different, and therefore so is the entire theme. The first bridge was very acoustic, right? There was almost like a country feel to the way I sing. Now, for the second bridge, we have a much more cinematic vibe. We have a grand piano, cello, more strings, cinematic drums, string pads, violins with different voicings. And then the DMB rhythm brings back the bridge to the hook again. Yeah. Now, for the vocal arrangement, it's very compact, it's very dense, there's a lot going on. So this is the amount of background vocals I have. I wouldn't say this is the most I did, and of course it's less compared to other K-pop arrangements or other pop productions, but still, I do think it's dense compared to what other people would normally do.
Will I ever meet somebody like you again? Who can love me as much as you did? Without you I feel I'm the only one that's left on earth, and it's now time for last goodbyes. But you're never gone.
The vocals are very stacked, and then we move on to the hook again. It's pretty much the same thing. That's Left on Earth. I would say this is kind of different from the songs that I usually do, and also very different from my previous releases, but I intended the song to be special, and it's not really for me. It's for remembering my uncle who really, really loved me, and I really loved him, and he raised me since I was very young, so rest in peace. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Please listen to the song, and subscribe and like the video. Thank you.
But you're never gone.